You are watching this video because your household currently has a family member who is working abroad, or you are thinking about supporting a family member to travel abroad for work. In most cases, particularly if your family member is working in the Arabian Gulf, the overseas job is temporary and the length of time is determined by a contract. Your family member will have to return back home at some point in the future. The purpose of this video is to bring to your attention what you and your household should be doing to make the most of the opportunity taken by your family member to work abroad, so that your lives improve and continue to improve even after your migrant member returns home for good. In this video, we will talk specifically about some things families can do to support a member who has migrated. While we will speak mostly about managing money matters, we will also stress on the importance of communicating regularly and openly with your migrant member. There are a number of things your family can do to make sure that your household benefits as much as possible from the migration of a family member for work. We will first focus on 4 key issues to be mindful of while your member is abroad, namely, define your family's goals and make plans to work towards those goals. Number 2, try to save the hard-earned money that is sent back home by the migrant. 3, communicate regularly with the migrant on money matters. And finally, communicate openly with the migrant about each other's issue, like for example, about your health and wellness. Now we will explain all these steps in more detail. Your family needs to make and follow clear goals in order to be financially stable and secure in the future. Here are some migrants and their families talking about their goals.
Rewards like that, so that's why we have decided, means we have to look after our 2 girl childs because they are growing up very fast. So we have to look after them for their better future, their better education. We have taken this decision.
Now I know her condition, my family condition. I tell some year after, control the financial expense and another expense, totally educations and house expenses, everything. Okay.
As a family who has sent a member to work abroad, you may expect that the money sent home by your migrant member is enough to cover the family's daily expenses such as food, clothing, rent, and school fees. However, it is important to plan for more than just these daily needs. Your family can have short-term or long-term financial goals. Short-term goals are goals that can be achieved in a short amount of time. For example, if your family plans to buy a scooter, then you do not have to save for a very long time to buy it. If you plan to build a new house or to purchase land, then it might take several years to save for a larger amount. This is more of a long-term goal. Another important long-term goal is retirement. You need to be thinking about how your family will be supported after the members who are currently working reach an old age. When planning these life goals, involve the migrant abroad in your decision making, especially on money matters such as how much money to save each month, or if there are any changes to the savings plan that you made together. It is important for migrants to know that their opinion is valued and can participate in major decisions back home even when he or she is far away. If you have specific goals in mind before saving, then it makes it easier to achieve those goals. For example, if you plan to send your child to a good school or college, then it is better to start saving now. Many migrant families that we have interviewed stressed the importance of their children's education. Even if you are a newly married couple or plan to have children in the future, you should already have a plan to meet your children's educational goals. You may encounter some challenges in achieving your goals. For example, you may find your family spending money today on things that they don't really need. Or you may still need to pay back a loan before your household can begin to save. These challenges can be overcome by proper planning and discipline, that is, sticking to your plan. Many of the goals you decide on together with your migrant member will require savings. Savings are money you or your household put aside today for use in the future. Savings are a good way for you and your household to manage risks, emergencies, and build assets to meet future goals. The money you receive from your migrant member should not be spent all at once. Some money, no matter how little, should always be saved. Listen to what some of these families have to say about the importance of savings and how the savings can be used.
അത് കുട്ടികൾക്ക് നല്ല സ്റ്റഡീസ് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റും. പിന്നെ കുറച്ചൊരു എക്സ്പെൻസ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഭാവിയിൽ അത് നമുക്ക് ഉപയോഗിക്കാം എന്നുള്ള ഇതാണ്. അതിന് വേണ്ടി
എൻ്റെ ഇതിൽ പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കിൽ അവിടെ നിന്ന് വീട്ടിലേക്ക് ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള മാത്രം അയച്ചു കൊടുക്കുക. എന്നിട്ട് പരമാവധി അവരവർ തന്നെ കുറച്ച് സേവ് ചെയ്യുന്നതായിരിക്കും ഇതിന് ഏറ്റവും ബെറ്റർ.
Give a good future for our children.
So house,
And when they are retired, we must have something in our hand. That is main important. Like
education and retirement.
we must keep for retirement. Because we don't get government pension, something like that. So we should have it retirement finance.
Most financial goals can be achieved if you are disciplined in saving, that is, saving regularly. There are two golden rules of savings we would like to share with you. The first rule of savings is spend less than you earn. The second rule is treat savings as an expense. Now we will briefly explain these rules. The first rule says you should spend less than you earn. To explain this rule, consider the following example. A family whose member is working in Qatar receives about 7,000 pesos a month. If the family wants to save, they need to spend less than the income of 7,000. So the family needs to be careful with how much they spend on daily expenses like food, clothing, gifts, festivals, or eating out in order to increase their savings. If they spend less on each of their daily or monthly expenses, they can save more. The second rule in the golden rule of savings is to treat your savings as an expense. You should always treat your savings as a necessary expense. Keep aside a certain amount of the income your family receives from the migrant by treating it as a necessary expense. For example, the family we mentioned earlier could decide to put aside 1,000 pesos every month and treat it as an expense so that by the end of the year, they will have savings of 12,000 pesos. Saving some of your money regularly, for example, every month, will help your family in the future. It will also help your family deal with emergency situations. You cannot always rely on the migrant to send you more money during an emergency. Also, in some months, you may receive less money from the migrant if he or she faces a difficult situation abroad. It is possible that migrants send less money back home because of an illness, injury, higher expenses, or if the company they work for doesn't pay them their salary on time. During these times, your family can use the money saved to meet necessary expenses back home. It is important to communicate with your family members who have traveled abroad to work. Include them in all the important decisions you make at home. An example of an important decision could be which school or university to send your child to, or how best to save or spend the money your migrant member sends home. Any matter involving large expenses should involve communication with your migrant family member. It is also important to discuss other major issues like whether the migrant should return or not and when. Here is a video of an Indian who returned from Qatar after consulting his family.
Did they say, okay, if you consult them before leaving the job?
അവർ ജോലി വിടുന്നേക്ക് മുമ്പ് ഇവരുടെ അടുത്ത് വീട്ടുകാരുടെ അടുത്ത് ചോദിച്ചായിരുന്നോ, മീൻസ് അവരുടെ അടുത്ത് കൺസൾട്ട് ചെയ്തായിരുന്നോ?
താല്പര്യം അല്ല, ഈ ഇങ്ങനെ നിൽക്കുന്നതിനേക്കാളും നല്ലത് ഇവിടെ കയറി വരണതാണ് നല്ലതെന്ന് പറയും.
While we encourage you to involve your migrant members in important decisions, it is also very important to communicate your concerns with your family member abroad and to encourage him or her to communicate their issues with you. Both you and your migrant member should know you are not alone in making decisions, and you should be able to discuss the problems faced even though you both are separated by time and distance. If you feel the migrant is unaware of your problems, make sure you inform him or her about the issue. For example, if you feel that the money being sent is not enough, discuss this problem with your migrant member by explaining what can be done on both sides to increase the amount. However, such requests must be reasonable so as not to put too much pressure on your family member abroad. Try to make sure that you are helping as much as possible by reducing any unnecessary expenses. For example, if you are spending a lot of money on clothing or new electronic items, then first try to reduce your expenses and only then contact the migrant if you still have problems with finances. Your family should also be aware of the migrant's living and work conditions. Do you know what type of work he or she is actually doing? Is the work done in a manner that keeps him or her safe? Does he or she live in a reasonable accommodation with necessary facilities? Is he or she eating enough and looking after her health? Does the migrant have friends they can count on for support? Showing interest in the migrant's life will enable him or her to talk openly about issues or problems being faced. Encourage your migrant family member to communicate his or her concerns with you. We have heard of cases where a migrant member falls ill and does not get paid or receives a late salary but continues to send the same amount of money home by borrowing from friends or co-workers. The migrant does not tell the family members of the true situation so as to not worry the family back home, even though he or she may be facing difficulties. This is not a healthy situation. Your family members abroad must know that they can share their difficulties or problems with you. Here are some family members of migrants in Kerala who talk about the advantages of communicating openly about all issues.
പക്ഷേ അല്ല, എൻ്റെ ഇത് അനുസരിച്ച് ഞാൻ തുറന്ന് പറയണം. കാരണം അവിടെ നടക്കുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഇവർക്ക് അറിയുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ കുറച്ച് നമുക്ക് മാനസികമായിട്ട് ടെൻഷൻ കിട്ടുന്ന സ്ഥലം ഗൾഫ്. ഒന്നാമത്തെ കാര്യം ഫാമിലി മിസ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, പിന്നെ അവിടുത്തെ ക്ലൈമറ്റ്, പിന്നെ അവിടെ ചെയ്യുന്നത് നമ്മളൊരാളുടെ കീഴിൽ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അവർ പറയുന്ന രീതിയിൽ നമുക്കൊരു ഫ്രീഡം കുറവാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അവർ പറയുന്ന രീതി ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് മാനസികമായിട്ട് ടെൻഷൻ ഉണ്ടാവും. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളെ പ്രയാസം ഇവരുമായിട്ട് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ കുറച്ച് റിലാക്സ് ചെയ്യും. പക്ഷേ ഇവരും അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുമല്ലോ അവിടുത്തെ അവസ്ഥ എന്താണെന്ന് ഇവരും അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുമല്ലോ.
Yeah, definitely. And husband side and നമ്മുടെ side എന്നായാലും proper communication. That is very important. If we are here and our husband is in, overseas or something, proper communication is very important. Then only we can, if some problem will happen, we'll have to solve it. The communication is very important. Then only we can solve easily.
Between husband and
Yeah, this is very much. Communication is very much important because we must know how they are living there.
Now that we have highlighted some of the key issues to be mindful of during the time your family member is working abroad, we would like to share with you some ideas on how you can better manage your money. we will in turn discuss the idea of budgeting, debt, and investing. Budgeting is a disciplined way to manage your household's money. A budget is a plan that organizes your income to pay for your expenses in order to maximize your savings. Not many households follow a budget, but it is an easy and simple way to manage money. Making a budget will help you use your resources smartly and efficiently so you can reach multiple goals. Making a budget will help you organize your money to meet your goals. There are 3 basic things you can do with your money. Spend it on daily needs, save it to achieve short-term or long-term goals, invest it to earn more money in the future. Keep in mind that it is important to spend wisely, save regularly, and invest carefully. These are the basics of money management. A budget will help you divide your money and make your daily money decisions a little easier. A budget may seem like a time-consuming plan, but there are a lot of benefits to budgeting. A budget makes it easier for you to decide on your spending and your savings. Having a budget also helps you to spend carefully and save regularly. Budgeting helps you achieve your financial goals and helps you understand the flow of money coming in and out of your household. There are many approaches to budgeting, but the most important ones are: keep track of what you earn and how you spend your money over a certain period of time. Define your financial goals to help guide your spending, saving, and investment decisions. Plan your expenses to meet your goals without spending more than you are capable of paying. Now we will show you how you can make a simple budget plan. To budget carefully and successfully, consider the following 3 steps. Number 1, keep track of your income and expenses. 2, decide on your financial goals. And 3, divide your income between savings and expenses. You need to keep careful records of the money coming in and going out of your household. The money you receive is the income your family members earn. This includes the money you receive abroad from a migrant member. The money going out of your household are expenses. To keep careful records of this, try to keep all the receipts of the purchases and transactions you make. In other words, try to write down everything you buy and the amount you have paid. Also, clearly note down how much money you wish to allocate for savings and different expenses. With this information, you can create a statement that shows you where your money comes from and where your money goes in a specific period of time. For example, in this slide, we show you income and expenses recorded over 3 months for a family which relies solely on money from a migrant member abroad for income. Every month, their family receives about 7,000 pesos. The family spends regularly on food, tuition fees, transportation, mobile phone bills, and repayment of a loan taken to pay for the migrant's trip, but occasionally they eat out. Note that the family is able to save some money after meeting their expenses, but was unable to save any money in February due to an unexpected medical bill. When are you likely to spend more money than you have coming in as income? With time, you will be able to see a trend in your earnings and expenses. This pattern will help you understand the total money coming in and the total money going out of your house. You can use this pattern of income and expenses to predict future expenses. Here are a few questions that you should consider while looking at the pattern of your earnings and expenses. When is your income higher? Can you save more during these periods? When are your expenses higher? Which expenses are regular and which ones are not regular? If the expenses are not regular or spent on daily needs, are these necessary? The next important step while budgeting is to set your financial goals. This is to determine how much you should be saving regularly every month. As you know, goals can vary from meeting basic needs to getting out of debt to educating children to buying a house. Here are some points to keep in mind when setting financial goals. Set specific short and long-term goals for your money. Set up at least one goal that you can reach quickly to reward yourself for saving. And review your financial goals and budgets over certain periods of time. Once you have tracked your expenses over several months and have made a savings plan for your financial goals, you can produce a budget statement to allocate the income received by your household. We have two main groups to categorize a budget: spending and savings. In the spending category, we have spending on necessities such as rent, utilities, food, and household expenses, as well as debt repayment. In the savings category, you can put the saved amounts that can be used to attain these short-term, medium-term, or long-term goals. For emergencies, which we place under savings, you can protect yourself against the negative impact of unexpected events by creating an emergency fund. Using the example of the family where we show their expenses over several months, let us assume that in order to meet their financial goals, they would have to put aside 1,000 pesos every month in savings, 200 for short-term savings and 800 for long-term savings. However, they would need to find ways to reduce their expenses in order to do so. In the next exercise, they can attempt to come up with a way on how to divide the income received between savings and expenses in order to meet their goals. If your plan is a good picture of your current income and expenditures, you should be able to identify ways to reduce spending and increase savings. The whole point of budgeting is to increase your savings and decrease unnecessary expenses. When you divide money across these two groups, think about your goals. If you don't have enough money to pay for your daily needs, debt repayment, and savings, you know that you will need to make changes in the budget or increase the time needed to achieve your goals. For example, give yourself 18 months instead of 12 months to save for certain goals. But be sure that you are realistic in these budget changes. As mentioned earlier, it is very important to plan and budget, but remember that with time, situations change, which may lead to change in your budget. For example, if your income goes up, then you can save more money. On the other hand, if your income goes down, you might be forced to save less in order to pay for the basic needs such as food. Another example of unexpected events is the birth of a child. If you have another child, you may decide to save more for education, but at the same time, your expenses will go up. Pay attention to your budget regularly so that you are prepared to change it in response to your changing situations. Budgets may also fail sometimes. You might have to spend more because of a serious emergency, such as a natural disaster back home or a sudden illness in your family. A budget may also fail due to inability to follow a savings plan. Making a budget is simple, but following a budget can be much harder. It takes discipline. You must respect each part of the budget, from establishing financial goals to controlling your spending to honoring your promise to save. One of the key things you can do to keep your budget is to control your household spending. Here are some things to consider about the way your household spends. Is the spending really necessary? The money you spend should be for a useful purpose. For example, buying food and spending on education and health are necessary expenses. An example of spending unwisely is buying fancy, luxurious, or expensive items which are not necessary. Buying a bigger or better television might not be as important as buying a sewing machine, for example, which can be used to tailor clothes for people earning the family some extra money. Can this spending be reduced? Many a times, your spending can be reduced by doing things differently. For example, if you usually take a taxi to the market or work, sharing a ride with a friend or co-worker will help you reduce the money spent on transport. If another family member smokes cigarettes, getting him or her to quit smoking will not only help with savings but improve that family member's health as well. Therefore, we should always be aware that there are many choices we can make and they can have a big impact on our savings. Once we increase our savings, then the time needed to achieve the goals can be reduced. In order to reach some of your goals, you may have to take on a debt. What is a debt? What is a loan? Let's first try to answer these basic questions. If you have taken some money temporarily from someone and you have to pay it back, then you have taken out a loan. And this means you are in a debt, since it is your responsibility now to return the money, oftentimes with interest or some fees. Many people take out loans during their life. You may have taken a loan earlier to cover some expenses or to cover the expenses to send your family member abroad. This is not a bad thing. However, you must have a plan to pay back the loan within a reasonable period to avoid any difficulties in the future. Managing your debt is a very important part of taking a loan. As a borrower, you must be in control over your debt at all times. One rule of thumb is that the money you spend repaying your loans should not exceed more than 20% of your household's income. For example, if your household receives 7,000 pesos in income every month, your loan repayment expenses should not exceed 1,500 pesos. There are many stories of people who have borrowed large amounts and were unable to repay it later on. For example, they decided to build a big home with marble floors and fancy woodwork. This situation caused a lot of stress and anxiety for families. In order to avoid this, you can set aside a fixed amount of money each month that you receive from the migrant and include this as part of your budget. You can also talk to the migrant about the best way in which you can manage your debt. It is important to include this in your budget so that you keep track of your loan easily. Increasing debt is one of the main reasons people have continuous financial problems. This can happen when you face an unexpected crisis and urgently need money. Whether managing existing debt or deciding if you can afford to take a second loan, make sure your debt obligations will not control your life. You must still be able to pay your basic needs and daily expenses. If you have been following the rules for savings as explained earlier in this video, you will hopefully have some extra money that you can use for the benefit of your family. What can you possibly do with the money? One potential answer is to invest that money. Investing is taking savings a step further. It is a way to make your money grow over time. Investing your money is one way you can use your current savings to earn more money. It is a way of making your money work for you. Any form of investment requires that you set money aside for a period of time which can range from a few months to several years. You must resist the temptation of spending this money, otherwise the returns on your investment will be lower or even lost. There are two important points to consider when you decide where to invest. One, the return on investment, and two, the risks involved. The first point is about the return on the investment. This is also referred to as the interest rate, dividend, or profits that can be earned. It is natural to think that a higher return on investment is the most important thing while investing your money. However, we must consider the return along with the risks involved, which is our second point. Risk is the possible loss of some or all of your money on an investment. You need to find out how big the risks are from a type of investment before deciding to invest. The general rule is that investments that offer high returns usually have higher risks as well. You need to decide if you want to take the high risk option in exchange for higher returns. For example, starting a business can be risky, but if successful, could be highly rewarding. However, it requires a lot of planning and careful preparation to start a business. You can invest in various ways. One popular way to invest money is to buy stocks. Other ways include buying property or starting a business. In each case, you must be aware of the risks and returns and always consult the migrant before taking any decision. Remember, the money is yours as a family, and so it is important that all decisions must be taken after talking with each other about the various advantages and disadvantages about each investment opportunity. Thank you for watching this module. Migration is a big opportunity for your family, which can also turn bad if not planned for properly. We hope that you have learned something important from this video and will benefit from this to improve your life in the years to come. Remember that along with proper planning, communication with the migrant is essential to your family's success. One is useless without the other. We wish you good luck for your future.